This is Assassin's Creed 3. We're on Xbox Series X. The game retains its Xbox One X enhancement, so that means we get nothing really too amazingly interesting. It just kind of runs the experience a little bit better. We're getting a 3200 by 1800p resolution, so basically 4K targeting, and that's according to the nice folks at Digital Foundry, and a 30 FPS with HDR support. So yeah, this is the third main entry in the Assassin's Creed series. I believe I can say that confidently because it's literally called Assassin's Creed 3. I know there's been numerous sub-spin-offs and everything like that around this era, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So this is a very different entry in the series. We're over at America when it was rather young in terms of the setting. Very much an interesting influence from outside power, and you're kind of around here doing missions, taking on the role of a rather interesting character, Connor, and basically seeing it from that perspective, which is kind of interesting because you're basically battling back against the foes and everything like that. It's kind of interesting. This is even, I still think, the setup really portion of the game because we're a few hours in with this particular save, and it's mostly a good showcase of, well, Boston and the local area here. So we could zoom in, you could see this location. We could, basically fast travel to other locations. So that's Boston, and then you've got this outer area that's the frontier. So we might show that off a little bit later on. I actually had to get through a pretty annoying kind of, I guess you could say, mission to go through. Yeah, the stealth missions in this one are kind of a little annoying because they're very touchy. But yeah, the gist of it is just really showing off, kind of how the game's running and everything like that. Keeping in mind that you're not really necessarily going to see massive improvements in this one over the One X version if you're coming from there, because it very much is the same version. There's not really anything they could add outside of actually going back and upgrading things. I mean, it's really quite great looking. It does still have that pop-in that you were seeing earlier as we were kind of moving around through the town, but it's mostly just to give you an idea of how things are running, how it looks, and the game itself, which does have an interesting story, I guess you could say, a neat sense of population density within the location, and some neat themes as you kind of go out and explore the outer areas, and you do the missions, and you take on this interesting perspective. It's kind of an interesting character split to a degree, I guess you could say. I do find that element a little bit fascinating. And of course, this one still had a lot of the, I suppose you could say, traditional Creed elements in regards to being a lot more focused on, like, stealth play, older climbing, but they did clean things up a lot with this remaster, in regards to improvements to, like, the textures and the way the game plays, the density and everything like that. They did, I'd say, generally a pretty good job with it. I was fairly impressed, and if you like Assassin's Creed 3, it's going to be a good way to play it and experience what it has to offer. I mean, I think it holds up pretty well. It's definitely a lot different from the modern take on the Creed series, which is obviously more, I guess you could say, RPG focused in this one, whereas this really is, right on par with that traditional element of Creed where you're, really taking in what the sites have to offer and exploring more vast areas with missions that do aim to provide an element of, stealth and everything like that. Where is the hay bale I'm supposed to jump up? Or, sorry, I think we're supposed to climb up a little bit more. Why aren't we climbing up? Drop, hang, drop. We're supposed to do like an eagle fly thing off of this, aren't we? Did I do this wrong? That's a little disappointing. Okay, let's just get back down, I guess. Sorry. Oh wow, yeah, we're dropping to our death. But yeah, it's a neat entry in the series. I think it's got some unique characters. I think it does some interesting things with expanding the scope of the story of Assassin's Creed in different ways as you continue your quests. It's something that I do feel that you could jump into freshly without having to have played other entries in the series. It's a standalone enough of an experience, I feel. But you know, it does connect to elements of the lore and the overall setting and everything like that, which I think is kind of interesting. Definitely a fun title, definitely a unique title, and perhaps you know something that is worth jumping into. Where is this guy kind of at? Isn't there supposed to be somebody here? I see them on the marker. Maybe it's a sniper because it's got the little icon there. But yeah, they offer some neat ways to kind of get around, and it still had that, I don't know how you would describe it, but that signature, sorry, we're kind of having trouble climbing here, that signature style within the environments, having like depth and detail and stuff, but obviously not quite to the degree that the later titles presented. Still, I like the settings and you know, the types of environments you visit, the combat, the weapons you have available to you. I just find it very interesting in terms of the design and the setting. I think it's really the setting that kind of makes this one because it's so different, and maybe also the lead character too is, you know, not something you would traditionally see from a lead character in a game, especially at the time. So I think that's kind of neat as well. You know, I get to use a wide range of weapons, and again, stealth is kind of a bigger part of this one, and it's kind of like a little bit awkward at times. I do think they did a good job with it, though, combat-wise, gameplay style, how you can move through things, the signature hay bales and all that. Like, it's really more of a true traditional Creed experience, and I'm just mixing in some combat because, you know, I think that makes it a little bit more exciting. Can we get the leap of faith going on here? Nope. Hello there, folks. Well, that did not work at all. Whoa. I did not expect this kind of going on here. Whoa. Yeah, this one had a lot more of like parrying type things. And I think it was a little bit more annoying. Yeah, I remember the older Creed games it just being a little bit more difficult to deal with large quantities of enemies. I think I did alright there. I always remember that being something that I complained about, was how I had to deal with, you know, enemies in groups. It was kind of annoying. But yeah, you get a pretty expansive sort of world to work through and visit. I kind of want to go over to the frontier though, so that we could show the frontier off in action, so you can get an idea of that one. It's just kind of cool. And I think this is bundled with, like, what is it, Liberation, but I kind of want to show off Liberation in its own sort of thing, because I think that one deserves its own little separate focus for being an interesting title in the series that, you know, was a smaller scale thing that kind of got pushed aside, but it really was an interesting spin-off, I guess you could say. That's fair to detail. But yeah, this is a really unique entry in the series, and one where the remaster was, I think, necessary in order to keep basically this game alive and keep it in people's minds. I would, you know, while I don't think you necessarily need to upgrade this one, I think in the future there are a number of areas where they could, you know, sort of upgrade things and stuff like that. I think they could push the tech in that a little bit further. But I still think while it does feel a little bit empty and stuff in comparison to what we have today, it's still a genuinely well done experience, a surprising one, something that's a bit unique. I want to move over, that's where we're heading here, to the frontier without just doing like a fast travel thing. I thought it'd be more neat to showcase the sort of progression that you get to witness. Yes, let's go to the frontier, and to show off a little bit of the loading, which is a bit better, but you're still kind of going through it. Well, actually, that was really fast. But yeah, then the frontier here is a lot more of open space, so I guess that's kind of how they were able to achieve these larger areas. I mean, there's some pretty good tree density to it, but a lot of this is just like open snow spots, if you get what I mean. And you have lots of different missions out here and different goals and things you do, and that all feeds into things. Oh yeah, and it comes with all the DLC as well, if you weren't aware of that, so you get all the DLC content they released for this. But I kind of want to also show off a little bit of the snow deformation, which was neat, I guess, for its time. It's less impressive now, but I did want to show that because it's weird when you're walking around that Like even the horses. Like when you're walking on regular paths, like when we were in Boston there, you don't really see any like of the footsteps or anything like that. It also seems like the snow is like really, really glowy, and I don't know, maybe that's due to the settings I have set up for the HDR, and that could be a, you know, kind of contributing to that element. But yeah, there's like hunting things. It's got all the content. It's got the full scope of Assassin's Creed 3, all here in a remastered effort. And I hope in general that this kind of showcased, you know, the game itself, gave you an idea of it. And I don't know if you've maybe never played Assassin's Creed 3, it might be a good time to jump in and play this one, because it's, you know, in general, the whole series of Assassin's Creed, there's so many different options and experiences where you can almost pick and choose what kind of historical location and event in time you want to play, and just simply jump in there. But yeah, it's looking good. It's running well. I think it's fairly smooth, and I hope you enjoyed this look at Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered. It's really just the pop-in stuff that kind of drives me crazy still, but I think it's more engine-oriented than it is tech-wise or anything like that. That's usually the case when it comes to the pop-in. But yeah, that's Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered.